Daktari, how are you?
Very fine.
We got to see you finally.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a busy period. Yeah.
I'm happy to see you, sir.
Thank you very much for this. I've not been to, of course, I've seen some of the work that you are doing with my good friend, Dr. Dan Kanojwang.
Yes.
And I think you are doing a very good job in educating Kenyans.
We really appreciate the compliments from your side. And we're happy to have you. We hope to have you more. But before that, please say hi to Wakenya. I can see you have international citizens. Maybe we'll start with Kenyans first, then we can go diaspora.
Ili kuwa na mdahalo wa kuangalia hii BBI na vitu vingine ni vizuri au si vizuri. My comrades from the continent of Africa, good morning, and I wish you a good week as we talk about our country and hopefully something about Africa now that we know there are conflicts in Tigray and other parts of the continent like the Cameroons, Mozambique, the Arab Democratic Republic of Sahrawi, and many other places that we want to be peaceful for the sake of the continent of Africa.
All right, I think that's even where we'll start, even to begin with, in African conversations. You are seeing the things that are happening in around Africa. Look at Uganda, look at recent elections in Tanzania. Also coming back, I think we have another beef again in Somalia, just next door. There's another drone that landed yesterday around our borders. I don't know whether it belonged to the country, but we're going to have those conversations. But before we go to that, you're not a new face, of course, but there are people as well who would want to know, who is PLO?
I'm a lawyer by training. I've been a teacher of law, and I practice law. Walk around Africa, and I'm using the word walk metaphorically because I believe that this continent has the opportunity through unity to rise up and be a continent which is respected. I think those are the things that keep me busy, keep me happy, keep me strong, keep me energized.
How has your journey been?
A journey of struggle, because life is a struggle, struggling about things that you believe in, struggling passionately. And I believe that we have surmounted many problems, but we have remained steady with our eye on the ball. The fact that we are around and our ideas are solid as they were when we were students tells me that we have been on the right course.
All right, so what are some of those things that you're very passionate about? You mentioned about passion. This ball that you have your eyes on, which ball is it? What are some of the things that keep you awake at night?
Integrity. Integrity is the mother's milk of true success. Patriotism. Loving one's country without being deflected by narrow ethnic considerations. Pan-Africanism. Holding the belief that as Africans we are equal to all other civilizations, and that if we combine our efforts in our diversity, we can energize the continent. The role of young people in the development of Africa, the role of women in the development of Africa, and honesty, among other things, so that we don't have individuals who think that the occupation of public office is for personal benefit, or the pursuit of public office without regard to anything else. Honesty, integrity, and conviction, and of course humility is at the very heart of it.
In this journey, I'm sure probably in your pursuit of this integrity, you've brushed shoulders with those people who don't see integrity as a currency of value. In this journey, what would you say has been your experience? Do you think integrity is possible?
Oh, of course, there are many good men and women, but I can tell you that there are men and women who are wedded to the devil himself, and they can kill and maim in order to acquire material things. And when you believe in certain things, when you believe in integrity, there are many people who plan your downfall. You earn many enemies, known and unknown, but the truth is that there are many more people who are inclined to do good, and that is why I agree that you don't turn to throw stones at every dog that barks. You keep on keeping on, as the commentators of old said.
You had an opportunity actually to be in a place where you've given the responsibility of restoring integrity, especially in government. That is the EACC. What was your experience like? Because I remember actually you left in half.
No, remember that the law was amended.
Yes.
to abolish the office that I held. So that is the context. That tells you that when you are fighting integrity, there'll be no shortage of men and women who want to curtail what you are doing. And people don't know that fighting corruption is not an easy thing. The people that you are fighting with are the people who shout against corruption during the day, are the ones who engage in it. And Kenyans only have to look at their counties, wherever you are. Look at your MCA. You know their salary. How have they built mansions within 8 years? Look at your governors. How have they built the hotels that they are building across the country? How have they acquired their helicopters? There is something that they have done which is not in accordance with the Quran, the Holy Bible, and the law. And yet we worship them. They go to church, as Sauti Sol said, and even if they don't belong to that denomination, our modern day clergy offer them the body of Christ. Even the so-called Church of Christ, through their clergy, have been compromised. It is not easy. It is not for the faint-hearted, but it's important that we must keep on doing what we are doing because it is good to do good. It doesn't mean you'll not make mistakes. You will. But as long as your eyes are on the ball, history will judge you fairly.
How was your experience like?
My experience is that when you believe in things, you fight for them. And you fight with the dignity that allows you to emerge morally strong. And I believe that by the grace of God, the fact that our voices, my voice, continues to be alive and well, it is a testament to the fact that thus far, by the grace of God, I must be doing something right. Whether you agree with me or not, there must be something that I'm doing right, that for the last 33 years, I've remained wedded to this cause. Wow. Like me, hate me, there must be something that I'm doing right.
Mahali, kuna kitu mahali unafanya vizuri.
Yeah, there must be.
All right. What did you say about corruption in a nutshell in this country? Do you think it has become part of us? It's like more of a part of us, like a culture.
There is a deeply seated culture of corruption, of reaping where one has not sown. But that does not mean that there are no good people in this country. There are. In fact, I dare say that many Kenyans are victims of corruption. They pay bribes because they have no choice. They pay bribes because their politicians offer them money. But the truth is that the political culture of this country is defined by corruption. And one of the things that has exacerbated the immorality in this country is negative ethnicity. For Kenyans, I urge you to read a book written by Koigi Wawamwere towards genocide in Kenya, the curse of negative ethnicity. What it tells you is that when people steal, we celebrate them by saying, he is a thief, but he is our thief. And that is tragic because corruption affects education, it affects health, it affects every sector of our economy. And you who are celebrating these thieves, I'm urging you to liberate yourselves. And permit me to say this. I see many people condemning the EACC. They have no idea what it is to investigate a corruption case. The corrupt are some of the most sophisticated individuals. They get the best lawyers, the best accountants, the best professionals in order to defeat the law. Thus far, I think that the EACC has been doing a good job, and those who are condemning them, you professional fault finders, know that corruption is not breaking and entering. It is complex, and you are fought, and you are maligned. You'll be called all names. You'll be accused of all things except the crucifixion of Christ.
You've mentioned EACC. EACC actually has been dubbed for many times as a toothless bulldog. You know, a very big dog that doesn't bite. Why do you think EACC doesn't bite?
No, that is not true. First of all, do people know the mandate of the EACC? They don't, because they don't read. The EACC has 3 mandates. The mandate to educate the people. The question is, do they do that? Yes, they do. The EACC has the mandate to create an environment where corruption is reduced. The prevention mandate. Do they do that? Yes. The EACC is involved in recovery of assets. Do they do that? Yes. During this year, they have recovered assets in excess of 2 billion. The EACC investigates. Once it has investigated, it passes the file to the DPP. The DPP prosecutes. The judiciary listens. The EACC is neither a dog nor is it toothless. The EACC has no more than 700 workers. You have a responsibility as a Kenyan to fight corruption. You can't be accepting bribes from your politician, then you blame the EACC. You can't be giving bribes to the traffic police officer, then you say EACC is a bulldog. Look at the thing in your eye before you accuse EACC. Play your part and stop fault finding. EACC is doing a good job within its mandate.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Now let's turn it back to you. You have PLO Foundation that you're running. I've been seeing the conversations will be running around Africa and also leadership and criticizing positively on what needs to happen in Africa. What is the role of PLO Foundation? What are you guys doing at PLO Foundation?
The PLO Foundation was founded 30 years ago. And it has been alive and well in critical areas of youth mentorship. It has been alive in the area of education, in the area of agriculture, in the area of health, in the area of invention and innovation. And as I speak to you now, we have young men and women across the continent in 38 African countries, in 10 countries outside of the continent of Africa, doing amazing things. And we are happy with what the young people are doing. Only yesterday, last evening, there was a beautiful conversation being held by young people out of Gaborone in Botswana. Only last week, there was an activity around issues of mentorship in Monrovia, in Liberia, in Uganda, in South Africa, in 38 African countries. Great things improving the quality of the lives of young Africans who are thoroughly energized, who are fantastic Pan-Africanists.
That is how some cheers. Anyway, all right. Good to hear that. Now let's talk about the state of Africa. The other times, around a month ago, we had elections in Tanzania, which were hugely contested. We have elections happening in Uganda, where the government has been seen to be using excessive force against those guys who are in opposition. We also look at what is going on in Ethiopia. I'm pretty sure that these are the conversations that really interest you. Let's start with Tanzania. What do you think about what's going on in Tanzania? Do you think Magufuli is blowing back democracy?
Let's start from the premise that we are not handling our elections very well. Because in many African countries, the contestants go into the election on the basis that they cannot lose the elections. That if they lose the elections have been rigged. You can't run democracy that way. The other truth is that in Tanzania, and I'm very familiar with what happens in Tanzania, I refuse to believe that it is possible for the opposition in Tanzania to win an election. Why? CCM is so deeply rooted in Tanzania that you cannot move it. You can appear to have support in urban areas, as indeed opposition parties do. But in rural Tanzania, chama cha mapinduzi kidumu, fikra za mwenye kiti zidumu, you can't win the election. You can shout and say you've been rigged, but it's untrue. It is true, of course, that in the run-up to the election, there was a sense in which the opposition was restricted, the media was restricted, and that is regrettable. I believe that we should allow the media to behave responsibly, but they should also be allowed to operate in an environment where they are not too restricted. But that the elections were won by my good friend Tindi Lucy, incorrect. He knows it. When he sits down alone, he knows he cannot beat. You know, when you are competing in Tanzania and the candidate is Magufuli, Magufuli is just the face of a juggernaut called the Chama cha Mapinduzi.
System.
Is a system. It's deeply rooted. From TANU to Chama cha Mapinduzi. It's not a joke. From Nyumba Kumi to the headquarters in Dodoma is Chama cha Mapinduzi.
So you actually mean Tundu Lissu never won the elections?
He knows. Tundu knows he never won the election.
So why are we not having a Nusu Mukate in Tanzania?
No, Tanzania is not wired like Kenya. You know the politics in Tanzania, to their credit, there is a sense in which, because of the deeply rooted nature of Chama cha Mapinduzi, there is also responsibility on the part of the opposition. I listened to Mbowe in Chadema, I listened to Membe in ACT Wazalendo, I listened to CUF. There is a sense in which one can say siasa za Tanzania ni siasa za hoja. In Kenya ni siasa za kikabila. Here we mobilize people on the basis of ethnicity, so that the Kikuyu are mobilized on the basis of their Kikuyuness, the Luos are mobilized on the basis of their Luoness, the Kambas in the same way, the Luhyas and everybody else, the Kalenjins in the same way. And therefore, when a party loses or a person loses, he is capable of weaponizing the tribe to the danger of the country. And that is why, therefore, we have these fundamentally ethnic rapprochements or reconciliation. They are not based on principle. They are based on symbolic leadership.
All right. So you actually think Magufuli is a good guy?
Yes, he is a good guy.
What makes you think so?
I think so because I have had the advantage of having a conversation with President John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, and you must ask yourself, what is the role of government? The role of government is to use the resources of the nation to improve the quality of the lives of the majority of the population. Has CCM done so during the stewardship of John Joseph Pombe Magufuli? Yes. Look at infrastructure. You go to Dar es Salaam today, and I've had the advantage of being in Dar es Salaam, in Dodoma, in Mwanza, in Iringa, in Mtwara. Infrastructure. You go into the area of agriculture, cashew nuts, and see what has happened. You go into the area of cashew nuts, rather the area of mining in gold and diamond, in Geita and in Mwadui, in Shinyanga. See natural gas. See the quality of the people's life. Tanzania has 5 years in advance become a middle-level economy. That administration is doing well. But remember what Saint Just said in France: nobody who is mortal can govern guiltlessly in the mind of fellow men. And remember these words that I was told when I was interning with John Garang de Mabior. As you walk, you have 2 baskets in your hand. One, the things that you do well. The other one, the things that unwittingly you may not do well. At the end of the day, the do-good basket must be heavier than the other basket. That is what allows history to offer a verdict.
Let's talk about the bad basket.
The bad basket,
For Magufuli.
you have men on Magufuli. There is a sense in which I think he could free the media a little. I think that you ought not to be too hypersensitive. There is a sense in which I think the opposition should be allowed to operate a lot more freely. Those are the 2 areas that I think he can do a little better. In any event, he's serving his last term. Let him ensure that that is achieved. But it's also incumbent upon African oppositions to remember that they should not be weaponized by foreign organizations. George Soros is very present in Africa under the mantra of regime change. And we must be wary of that. Where are they getting their money? Whose agenda are they articulating? So we must never forget that the West, through the neo-colonial project, is alive and well, and they want to control African governments. And if you are found to be engaged in that regard, then it is in the nature of governments for the sake of the nation to protect themselves within the limits of the law.
All right, let's move into Uganda. Let's just cross over to Uganda. What's going on in Uganda? Museveni is saying he's protecting our future.
In 1986, when Yoweri Kaguta Museveni became the president of Uganda, I was elated because Yoweri said the right things. One of the problems in Africa, he said, is leaders who refuse to leave office, and I cheered Yoweri. He said, beyond the age of 75, science has demonstrated that all your faculties begin to go south. We should never allow anybody above the age of 70 to be the president of any country. I cheered Yoweri. He said, we cannot allow ourselves to create an environment where people cannot express themselves freely. I cheered Yoweri. But things have changed so very dramatically. First, he changed the constitution to eliminate term limits. Second, he changed the constitution to allow people to contest beyond age 75. He himself will be age 76 next year in the year of election. And I now see him frustrating the young Bobby Wine. I did so to Kizza Besigye. I sat down with Yoweri 2 years ago during UNCTAD. One of the greatest things about Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, you call his office, they'll return your call. Wow. And make an arrangement. And he'll meet you. And he'll engage you intellectually. And I told him politely as I could muster, Your Excellency, is it not right that you should leave office? This is what he said. You do not know African politics. And what do I do when I leave office? I said, be the elder statesman and be the one who runs East African Confederation. You could be her first president. He asked me to do a concept note, which I did. He has not responded for the last 2 years. Until now,
he's disappeared. There's something you mentioned about Tanzania. the way there has been some politics that have been going around, and I think you've also picked it up on Tanzania about CCM. And there has been there's a clip. I'll play the clip for you. There's another clip. Some other professor who was really arguing about African politics and the fact that you must understand African politics in the sense that people say let's not give money to citizenry, but when you go to campaign, these guys, the first thing they'll ask you is, give us the money. They don't care about the agenda. Anyway, flipping it back to Tanzania, you've talked about how deeply rooted CCM is in Tanzania. The same argument has been brought to Uganda. And they're saying you guys are underestimating Museveni. You think Museveni is a pushover. But in the grassroots, he has a supporter in it. The only people who are making noise are in the urban centers. Would you still argue the same?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that many of us commentators, and I think sometimes we are very superficial and almost naive, because we forget that NRA, NRM is a freedom fighting movement in the same nature as Frelimo, as SWAPO, as ANC, as MPLA, as SPLM. These are movements that grew out of very painful circumstances. And remember that Africa is almost 80% rural. Those in the rural area are not connected to the economy. They are not complaining about unemployment. Yes. They are not complaining about electricity. They don't have it anyway. They are not complaining about running water. They go to the stream anyway. They are not talking about garbage collection anyway. And therefore, when you hear people saying that the NRA, NRM government is a bad regime, it makes greater sense in the urban areas, those who watch television and listen to radio and listen to foreign commentators. But the truth is, when the elections are actually held, there are people who vote for NRM in order to immunize themselves against Idi Amin. They know nothing else. They are saying, if you vote against NRA, NRM, Amin will come back. They don't even know that Amin is dead. So that is what you are competing with. It is completely different from when you are voting in Norway or Denmark, where you don't have to hold a political rally. You can address the entire nation through the media, and people are going to vote on the basis of health, education, pension, and all those things. So that is the other thing that we don't remember. So it is not easy to remove NRA, NRM. And the generals themselves have been heard to say, we will not salute anybody outside of the movement. When people say that, it's not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing. But how I wish and pray that Yoweri could do the thing that I desire, midwives a change, and he sits like our joint mentor with him, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, and lives for 10 years watching man, woman after woman becoming the president, and you say, lo and behold, I built something that succeeded. Because, as Nyerere used to say, you are not successful until your successor succeeds.
Wow. So let me ask you, Dr. on that note, on the issues of you want Museveni to step aside after winning an election?
I hold the view, because the die is now cast. He's going to be the NRA, NRM candidate. There is nothing that stops him after 2 years from saying, I've served, I've now seen it, I'm now leaving office, and I will be a part of the NRA, NRM from outside of it, so that there is a peaceful handover of power. See, the danger is, because you can also not discount and underrate public discontent, no matter how entrenched you are. Remember the fate of Mengistu Haile Mariam in Ethiopia. You remember the fate of Omar el-Bashir. You remember the fate of Hosni Mubarak. It is possible for a people to create an environment once they conquer fear that becomes untenable, and even the invincible, the apparently invincible, can come down like Humpty Dumpty, as we were taught in our younger days.
Do you think giving out power is really ingrained in African leaders? Do you think it's in their software?
I think there is a sense in which it is not easy because we don't understand the purpose of power. What is the purpose of power? Power gives you a position of honor and privilege to serve fellow man, not because you are better than them, but because perhaps by dint of courage and circumstances, you've come ahead, and therefore you are the representative of their agenda. That is why we call people who are representatives honorable, because we have honored them and privileged them to midwife the resources that we have given to them to improve the quality of our life. In fact, the American Declaration of Independence, which I love, says, in part, we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are born equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for this purpose, governments are formed amongst men to help them achieve this. And if they fail to do so, it is the right of the people to remove them. Many people in Africa don't appreciate that, but there are those who do. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela will go down in history as having appreciated that. He could have been the president for life. Sam Nujoma in Namibia did that. Ian Khama did that. Hifikepunye Pohamba in Namibia did that. Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere did that. Desalegn in Ethiopia resigned very young to allow for Abiy Ahmed to become. So sometimes we are very negative, and yet there are examples. Johnson Sirleaf left power. And so there are quite a number of African leaders who have actually left power voluntarily. But those who have not, those who arrogate to themselves the monopoly of honor and privilege and wisdom, Mobutu Sese Seko, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, Mengistu Haile Mariam, Idi Amin, and Laurent Gbagbo, those Omar el-Bashir, Hosni Mubarak, and that ilk, Habib Bourguiba in Tunisia, people remove them and they destroy their countries. So let us also remember that there are good examples and there are bad examples, and that this is not an African thing. As I speak to you now, in Belarus, the leader has refused to leave office. In Ukraine, the leader had to be removed. In Kazakhstan, the leader had to be removed. In the United States of America, we are removing Donald Trump, and he's wailing at and kicking at every corner. But for strong institutions, Donald Trump would not leave office. So this is not uniquely African.
The same conversation is going on in Kenya right now. I had a Twali the other day was saying that Uhuru Kenyatta tano tena after BBI.
That is a very unfortunate statement from Francis, whom I know very, most unfortunate, because the truth is President Kenyatta will conclude his term in the year 2022. And in Kenya, to our credit, I think we have now created a very good tradition that you serve your term. Daniel Moi did, Mwai Kibaki in great dignity, and he's remained dignified. Left, President Kenyatta, there are so many things to do around the continent. President Kenyatta is now the UN ambassador for youth affairs. That is something that he can run with, and he'll be 60, he'll be 61 when he leaves. Let him ask David Cameron what he's doing right now. There are many young people who are doing things, even within Africa. He'll find Ian Kama in Botswana, is a retired Joachim Chisano, Johnson Salif, Motlante, Swapo with our good friend Sam Nuyoma, Ifikepunye Pohamba, Serese Kama. There are so many retired African leaders who are doing beautiful things and did beautiful things. So this idea that somebody is young, what is the life expectancy in Kenya? It is below 50 and below 60. Uhuru would have lived beyond Kenya's life expectancy, and he can consult and he'll find there are beautiful things to do. Francis, stop it. Stop poisoning President Kenyatta.
What do you tell the president? Kenyatta himself.
The president, don't listen. Don't listen to such people. Mwalimu Nyerere, with whom I served in his foundation in the 1990s, once told me that when he wanted to leave office, people came to him, kamwambia mwalimu usiwache, usingatuke, utatuacha mayatima. Akasema, nyinyi watu wazima hivi, nitawacha mayatima nyinyi. Ni ubinafsi huu. So President Kenyatta must say it firmly. And he must tell those people around him who are telling him that nonsense to stop it. He's going to leave office and he's going to serve Kenya in other capacities. I believe he can, and I believe he will.
So Uhuru aende nyumbani. Baada ya time yake, he should go.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a video. It's a video.
I need to say that those who come here talking about NRM this, NRM has a lot of money, waning. Power is for keeping. It doesn't matter how good you are. Obote was a wonderful leader. Obote didn't steal. Obote didn't steal any money. He didn't build mansions. He didn't know. But he lost power twice. Idi Amin was a wonderful leader. Look at what he was able to achieve. But Idi Amin understood Sinoraj. He understood Sinoraj. That's why he built the UN, the building, the embassy in New York, in Japan. He built airports, underground airports. But he also didn't know how to keep power. Museveni knows how to keep power. He does. And he's not going to leave it like that. And he say, oh, you know what? You have too much money. He's not going to leave it. You know, listening to some of these MPs.
These are most unfortunate. It's most unfortunate because he doesn't understand, in my view, or if he does, he has deliberately chosen to ignore. I know his son is also a member of parliament.
Yes, he's an MP. He's an MP.
Yes, so I know him very well, and he has very interesting ideas, but this is a most unfortunate because what is power? Power is service. He's serving your people. And when you say that his power is for keeping, then you don't know what it is because you can't keep power forever. You die anyway. So when you understand what power is, and you can go to countries such as the Scandinavians, you see how power is dealt with for the benefit of the people. Power is so soft that you don't even feel it because you only see services. When I grew up here in Nairobi, when I didn't know the mayor, but I knew one thing in Jericho. On Monday, they would collect garbage. On Wednesday, they would collect garbage. On Saturday, when we were not in school, they would collect garbage. and we would sing Kamero na Kauti na Kagoro Kamwe. I knew I paid 20 shillings and I would go to school and I would get exercise books. I knew our houses were painted once every year and we'll immediately use charcoal to write on it. I knew they were fumigated every 6 months. I didn't need to know my mayor. I didn't need to know my MCA. I never knew them, but services were being rendered. I remember I took third-class train from Kisumu to Nairobi, and it was all nice. I remember I paid 25 shillings in OTC. I remember I had a bus pass and paid only 30 cents to travel within Nairobi. Services were being rendered. And I remember that campaigns were held with the people on opposite sides campaigning. There were no goons. That is power. And that is power exercised for the benefit of the people. This jaundiced understanding of power, which is to be kept, is completely improper. It is unfortunate. Such ideas belong to the dustbin.
All right. Ethiopia. Is Ethiopia slipping back to civil war?
Ethiopia is a complex country. The second largest population with 100 million. Remember that when Haile Selassie was removed from power in 1974, I was in Standard 7 then. Ethiopia was a feudal country. Remember at that time, it is the Deg regime of Mengistu Haile Mariam that removed him. They tried to be communist. After that, there was the insurgency of the Tigray People's Liberation Army, which included, of course, the man that I respect, Meles Zenawi, and Isaias Afwerki, who is now the president of Eritrea. And it must be remembered that when TPLF took over power in 1990, the country was divided. There was the Oromo Liberation Army. There was, of course, the army, the militia amongst the Amhara. And these are just the major communities. There had been a war in Ogaden. And the constitution, therefore, recognized these issues, with Ethiopia currently being divided into ethnic regions, 9 regions, with the possibility of secession. Yeah. And my fear now, and this must be understood in the context, that when Desalegn left power for Abiy, who is from the Oromo, the understanding is, or was, that that would quieten the Oromo Liberation Front. The Oromo are the second largest ethnic group in Africa, if not the largest. Of course, the Hausa say they are, and the Yoruba also make the claim, but with over 40 million. But the Tigray are the most militarized. And you can see that when it was decided that the elections be postponed, they went on to conduct their own election. They said they no longer recognize the government in Addis Ababa, and it became necessary, unfortunately, to engage and to prosecute this war, which has now reached Mekelle. And my fear is that victory may be declared, but I see a long insurgency, and you can already see it. Missiles directed towards Asmara to internationalize the war. Soldiers have disappeared into the mountains. Some, I think, have mixed with the refugees in Sudan. And that worries me, because it will also energize Oromo, it will energize Ogaden, and I would have loved to see the AU coming a lot more forcefully. They were diplomatic. The envoys led by Chisano, Johnson Sirleaf, and Motlanthe that saw Prime Minister Abiy was a little too diplomatic, perhaps necessary, but Ethiopia worries me. Because if we don't take care of it, the entire horn, Kenya is going to have refugees, Djibouti refugees, Somalia refugees, Eritrea refugees, South Sudan refugees, Sudan refugees, and with the insurgency, the region could become very unstable. So it is something that I think Matemela, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the current chair of the AU, should take very seriously. IGAD should take very seriously, and the East African community should take very seriously. And it's unfortunate that at the same time, the Kenyan government is being accused of interfering in Somalia.
Yes, those I've seen already. They've already recalled the ambassadors.
Yes.
They also sent ours back home. And the EU keeps quiet on all these things.
Oh, AU with Muhammad Faki. Disappointing. You know, the AU now needs individuals who are truly energized I may be wrong on this, but I think that Muhammad Faki sees the AU as a retirement site and a preparation site for his own stab at the presidency. Remember, was the foreign minister of Chad, and remember, he's already being touted that after the second term, he's going to go in unopposed in February 2021, that he will be the next president of Chad. So he doesn't want to ruffle feathers. The chairman of the AU Council should be a crusader who loves Africa, who's prepared to energize the African population, who's prepared, if necessary, to annoy the politicians. We don't have that. Too careful, to the detriment of the continent.
But
you talked of a bulldog at
yes.
the beginning.
Yes.
If there is a bull, which is a dog, which has no teeth, it is the AU, not EACC.